Eli had never planned to visit Titan. In fact, he had never even imagined spending more than a few hours in a spaceport orbiting Saturn's largest moon. Yet here he was, carrying a worn backpack stuffed with tools, blueprints, and a few personal items that reminded him of home. The sprawling port was alive with noise, chatter, and the hum of distant spacecraft engines, a mixture of metallic clanks and soft mechanical whirs that gave the station its own strange rhythm. After a long day of work repairing navigation systems for cargo ships, Eli felt both tired and restless. He wanted a quiet corner to sit, a place to rest and perhaps enjoy a warm meal before the long flight back to the ship he called home. The cantina was crowded, but he spotted an empty table near the window. Without thinking twice, he slid into the seat and set his backpack down beside him. Across the room, a woman looked up and smiled. Eli blinked, startled. She was sitting alone at the table, a steaming cup of something he couldn't identify in front of her. Her eyes were bright, curious, and strangely familiar, though he had never met her. "This is the best moment I've had in years," she said softly, her voice calm yet filled with a quiet happiness. Eli paused, unsure if he had heard correctly. "The best moment I've had in years," she repeated, smiling more openly this time. "You, sitting here. It's simple, but perfect." Eli's confusion only deepened. He had expected annoyance, maybe a demand to leave. Instead, she seemed genuinely happy. "I think this table might be taken," he said, glancing around. The table was indeed in the middle of the cantina, positioned slightly apart from others, giving the impression of importance. He hadn't noticed any nameplates or signs, but something in the woman's expression told him that this wasn't just a random spot. She shook her head. "No, it's fine. Really. Sit. I'm Lyra." "She looks now. I'm Lyra." Eli hesitated, then extended his hand. "Eli, I'm not supposed to be here, I guess. I just needed a place to rest." Lyra's smile didn't fade. "Good things often happen when we end up in the wrong place." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Eli felt an unexpected warmth, like stepping out of a cold, empty corridor into sunlight. He sat down, placing his hands on the smooth metallic surface of the table. Around them, the cantina buzzed with conversation. Aliens of every shape and size moving about with trays of food, mechanical devices, and glowing drinks. But for Eli, the noise faded into the background. "You're not afraid?" Eli asked, studying her face. Most people would be annoyed if someone sat at their table by mistake. Lyra tilted her head, considering him with interest. "Why be afraid of small mistakes? Life is too short for fear. Besides," she added, "humans are fascinating. You notice details, you react quickly, you adapt." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Fascinating, huh?" He chuckled nervously. "I'm just an engineer." "An engineer is never just an engineer," Lyra said. "You build things, you fix problems. You create solutions where others see only obstacles. That takes courage, patience, and a kind of hope that this galaxy doesn't often see." Eli blinked, unsure how to respond. No one had ever said something like that to him before. Most people at the ports he visited either ignored him or treated him like a tool to be used. Lyra's words, soft as they were, felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. For the next few minutes, they sat in silence, watching the activity of the cantina. Eli noticed the variety of life forms: tall, thin beings with translucent skin, short creatures with multiple limbs, and even a few robotic assistants moving gracefully among the tables. The noise didn't feel overwhelming. With Lyra there, it felt comforting. "So, what brings you to Titan?" Eli finally asked, curiosity winning over his hesitation. Lyra sipped from her cup, a faint blue vapor curling above it. "I work with the Galactic Council," she said. Mostly research and advisory roles. I study how different species interact, how technology changes societies, things like that. And you? Cargo ship engineer. Eli replied. I fix systems, keep things running. Nothing glamorous. Mostly thankless. Ah, thankless, she said, nodding knowingly. But necessary. Humans are reliable. You do what must be done without expecting praise. That is rare in the galaxy. Eli felt a small smile tug at his lips. Thanks, I guess. Lyra leaned slightly forward. You know, when someone sits at the wrong table, it usually causes tension. But with you, it's different. I feel happy. Not just at this moment, but maybe for the first time in a long while. Eli was struck silent. He wanted to ask why, but somehow the question seemed too personal. Instead, he nodded slowly, letting the moment linger. Minutes passed. A few staff members approached the table, checking reservations, but Lyra politely waved them away, explaining that Eli was a guest. He hadn't intended to intrude, but the warmth in her eyes made him stay. Curiosity got the better of him. So, if I'm sitting at the wrong table, who is supposed to be here? Lyra smiled faintly. Diplomats. From several systems. They meet here occasionally to discuss politics, trade agreements, peace treaties. But right now, it doesn't matter. Right now, this table is just for us. Eli's eyebrows rose. You mean I accidentally sat at a table where aliens are supposed to negotiate the future of the galaxy? Yes, Lyra said with a playful shrug. And that's exactly why this is so perfect. Humans have a way of seeing what others overlook. Maybe that's why I noticed you. The thought was humbling. Eli had never imagined his ordinary presence could make any difference at all. And yet, sitting there, he felt important. Not because of what he could do for the galaxy, but simply because of his human qualities. Curiosity, empathy, and honesty. As they talked, Eli realized that he didn't need to impress her with knowledge of galactic politics or advanced technology. Lyra seemed genuinely interested in who he was, not what he could do. They shared small stories about home, the ships he had repaired, the strange foods he had tried in other ports, and the unusual languages he had attempted to understand. With every word, the tension of the busy cantina faded, replaced by a quiet, shared understanding. Hours passed like minutes. The sun, or what passed for sunlight here, filtered through Titan's orbiting station shifted, casting long reflections on the metallic floor. Eli felt a sense of ease he hadn't known in years. For once, he wasn't just a worker, a human among countless others. He was simply himself, and it mattered. Finally, Lyra glanced at the clock-like device above the cantina doors. Time flies when the right company is present, she said softly. I wish moments like these didn't have to end. Eli nodded, feeling the same. I never expected sitting at the wrong table to feel like this. Lyra's smile widened. Neither did I. Sometimes, mistakes are just the universe's way of giving us exactly what we need. Eli glanced around at the other tables, at the diplomats who were beginning to arrive. He realized that soon, he would have to leave this table, return to the ordinary rhythm of life. But something in him had shifted. Sitting at the wrong table had become one of the best moments of his life. As he packed his things, he felt a hand on his arm. Lyra's eyes met his. Remember, she said quietly, it's not about where you sit. It's about who you share the moment with. None. Eli smiled, a warmth spreading through him he hadn't felt in years. And for the first time in a long while, the galaxy didn't feel so big, so cold, or so impersonal. Eli left the cantina feeling a strange mix of excitement and disbelief. He had expected nothing more than a quiet meal after a long day of repairs. And instead, he had stumbled into a conversation that felt almost magical. He walked slowly through the spaceport's corridors, taking in the sights and sounds that surrounded him. Alien merchants called out their wares. Mechanical drones hummed as they moved crates and cargo, and the walls were lined with colorful advertisements, some holographic, some etched into the metal itself. Yet, no matter how many distractions filled the corridor, Eli's mind kept returning to Lyra. He remembered her calm smile, the way she spoke as if the world was brighter simply by noticing him, and the warmth in her words when she said, "Humans have a way of seeing what others overlook." He paused at a large observation window overlooking the docking bays. Ships of all shapes and sizes floated in the low gravity, their thrusters creating soft pulses of light. Eli leaned on the railing and watched them, realizing that in a galaxy so vast, moments like the one he had shared at the cantina were rare. The next day, Eli returned to the port with a purpose. He wanted to find Lyra, not out of romance or curiosity alone, but because the connection he had felt with her seemed meaningful, almost like the universe had orchestrated their meeting. He wandered through the cantina, hoping to see her again. And there she was, seated at the same table, reading from a small device that displayed glowing lines of information. She looked up when she noticed him, and her smile instantly reassured him. "You came back," she said, her voice light and welcoming. "I did," Eli replied. I wanted to see you again. And maybe continue our conversation from yesterday. And to former, we did. Lyra gestured for him to sit. "I was hoping you would. You see, yesterday, it reminded me why I do what I do. There are so many responsibilities, so much politics and rules. It's easy to forget the small human moments that truly matter." Eli nodded. "I know what you mean. Most of the time, I'm just fixing machines or following instructions. No one notices the little things, the choices, the effort. But sitting here, it feels like I matter, even if just for a moment." She tilted her head, studying him carefully. "You do more than matter, Eli. You remind me that empathy, courage, and curiosity are universal. Not everyone here or anywhere understands that. You do." Eli felt his face warm. It was strange to be complimented not for achievements, but for qualities that felt ordinary to him. To be seen, truly seen, was a gift he hadn't expected in the vastness of space. For the next few hours, they talked about everything and nothing. Eli shared stories of his travels from port to port, the strange creatures he had seen, the bizarre foods he had accidentally tried, and the small victories of repairing a broken ship system against impossible odds. Lyra spoke of her work with the Council, her studies of interstellar relations, and her fascination with humans and their ability to solve problems in ways other species could not. "You humans have a kind of stubbornness," Lyra said with a small laugh. "You face challenges not because you are ordered to, but because you choose to. You improvise, create, and sometimes, you even inspire." Eli chuckled. "I never thought of it that way. Most of the time, I just do my job. But I guess, maybe it does inspire sometimes, in small ways." Lyra nodded. "More than you realize. Your presence here, simple as it seems, reminds me why I started this work in the first place. I wanted to see beings who could balance logic and heart, who could navigate chaos without losing their essence. Yesterday, meeting you, it was a rare glimpse of that balance, too." Eli felt a deep respect for her. She was wise, thoughtful, and genuinely interested in understanding others. Not for personal gain, but because she wanted to learn and connect. In that moment, he realized that humans were not alone in their desire to make a positive impact in the universe. Others, like Lyra, also sought understanding, but it was rare to find someone who approached it with both intellect and genuine kindness. As their conversation continued, Eli noticed subtle signs around them. The diplomats, who had been expected at the table yesterday, were now arriving, their sharp eyes observing the scene. Some appeared suspicious of him, a human in their midst, while others seemed simply curious. Yet, Lyra remained calm, and Eli realized that her confidence allowed him to feel safe. "You don't need to worry about them," Lyra said quietly, noticing his unease. "They are wary, yes, but they will see that you are not a threat. Humans are different in ways they cannot always predict. But sometimes, that difference is exactly what is needed." Eli nodded, taking comfort in her words. "You won't," Lyra reassured him. "Trust yourself, and trust that your presence here has value. Sometimes, simply being true to who you are is enough." They continued talking as the afternoon passed, and Eli felt a growing admiration for her insight. Lyra's approach to life and work was unlike anything he had encountered. She was thoughtful, patient, and unafraid to acknowledge the beauty in small moments, qualities that he had always valued but rarely found mirrored in others. At one point, she leaned forward and said, "Eli, have you ever thought about how humans might influence the galaxy, not with weapons or power, but with empathy, creativity, and resilience?" Eli paused, considering the question. I suppose I haven't. Most humans I know just try to survive, do their jobs, and help where they can. But influencing the galaxy, that feels like a huge responsibility." Lyra smiled. "It is. But influence comes in many forms. Your actions, your decisions, your approach to problem solving, they all ripple outward. Even sitting at the wrong table, speaking honestly, and showing kindness can shift perspectives in ways no one expects." Eli felt a quiet pride. It was strange to realize that simple human qualities, curiosity, empathy, and integrity, could have a meaningful impact in a galaxy filled with complexity and politics. The conversation eventually shifted to the future. Lyra spoke of upcoming council missions, the challenges of negotiating with alien species, and the need for individuals who could bring fresh perspectives to stagnant systems. Eli shared ideas for technological solutions, simple improvements that could help in diplomacy, transportation, and communication. "You see," Lyra said with a grin, "even your everyday experience as a human engineer can offer insights others overlook. You notice what is broken, and more importantly, you know how to fix it." Eli laughed. "I guess that's one thing humans do well." Lyra's gaze softened. "One thing humans do better than any other species I've studied. Not just fix things, but also inspire hope, curiosity, and understanding. That is rare." As evening approached, the cantina's lights shifted to a soft glow. Aliens and humans alike moved about, finishing their meals or preparing to leave. Eli realized he had spent the entire day at the table. Yet he didn't feel tired. Instead, he felt energized, as if each word spoken and each story shared had added strength to his spirit. "Eli," Lyra said softly, "I know this is unusual, but I hope you understand why your presence here matters. More than you might think." He nodded, feeling a warmth that went beyond simple friendship. "I do. And I hope I can keep learning from you too. Not just about the Council or the galaxy, but about how to make a difference in my own way." Lyra's smile deepened. "You already are, Eli. You already are." They parted that evening with a quiet understanding, Their meeting was more than a coincidence. It was the beginning of something significant, an exchange of ideas, inspiration, and mutual respect. Eli walked through the spaceport, watching the stars beyond the station's windows. He felt a new sense of purpose, a belief that humans, ordinary, imperfect humans, could leave an extraordinary mark on the universe. That night, as he prepared for rest aboard his small ship, Eli reflected on the day's events. He thought about the simple truth Lyra had shared. Influence is not always loud or grand. Sometimes it comes quietly, through genuine connection, shared moments, and the courage to be oneself. And as he drifted into sleep, the image of Lyra's smile lingered in his mind, a reminder that humans, small, resourceful, and compassionate, could shine even in the farthest reaches of the galaxy. The next morning, Eli awoke to the hum of his small ship's engines. The gentle vibrations were familiar and comforting, a reminder that despite the vastness of the galaxy, he had a place where he belonged. He rubbed his eyes and looked out the viewport at Titan's swirling orange clouds, wondering what the day might hold. The events of the previous 2 days, meeting Lyra, sitting at the wrong table, and sharing a connection that felt unusual, but significant, still lingered in his mind like a soft echo. He hadn't expected that today would bring more than quiet reflection. Yet, as he descended the corridors of the spaceport, he noticed a growing tension in the air. Security personnel moved with unusual urgency, and strange whispers echoed through the docking bays. Cargo ships were delayed, and alien diplomats hurried past, their expressions tight with worry. Something was wrong. When he reached the cantina, Lyra was already there, her calm demeanor offsetting the nervous energy around her. But her face was serious, and for the first time, Eli saw concern in her eyes. "There's trouble," she said quietly as he approached. "A faction from the Andari system is threatening the Council's peace talks. They want to disrupt the agreements between several species, and they've made it clear that humans being unpredictable are part of the problem." Eli swallowed. "Unpredictable? Me?" Lyra nodded. "Not just you, but humans in general. Your species' ingenuity is respected, but feared. They see the potential for disruption in your ability to improvise, to adapt quickly, and to challenge expectations. That's why they're targeting the Council today." Eli felt a mix of fear and determination. He had never imagined that his presence, or that of humanity in general, could influence interstellar politics so directly. Yet, deep down, he understood what Lyra had said. Humans were different, capable of solving problems in ways others might not anticipate. "Is there anything I can do?" he asked. Lyra studied him for a moment. "Your skills could help prevent disaster. There's a communications array near the docking bay that the Andari faction plans to sabotage. If they succeed, chaos will erupt, and the peace talks could collapse before they even begin." Eli nodded, feeling a surge of responsibility. "Show me. I'll do whatever I can." They hurried through the station, weaving past busy corridors and security checkpoints. Eli's mind raced, analyzing the situation. He knew that improvisation would be key. The array was delicate, designed to coordinate communications between multiple ships and Council delegates. If it failed, misinformation and panic could spread instantly. When they arrived, the scene was tense. Security droids patrolled the area, while several Andari agents, recognizable by their armored suits and multi-limbed appendages, moved stealthily near the array. Eli could see the potential for disaster. A single misstep, a disrupted signal, and the peace talks would be thrown into chaos. "Can you repair it?" Lyra asked, her eyes meeting his. Eli nodded, taking a deep breath. "I can try. I'll need access panels, tools, and a clear line of sight." Lyra quickly activated her access codes, granting him permission to approach the array. Eli moved with practiced skill, opening the panels, and assessing the damage. Sparks flickered from a broken relay, and wires hung loose from several connections. It was worse than he had imagined, but not impossible. He set to work, using tools from his backpack to stabilize the connections. His fingers moved quickly, guided by instinct and experience. Every decision mattered. One wrong move could trigger the sabotage or damage the entire system. Yet, Eli's human ingenuity shone through. He improvised solutions on the fly, using spare wires and energy conduits to redirect power and stabilize the relay. Lyra watched, silently impressed. "Humans really do think differently," she murmured. "You see solutions where others see only problems." Minutes passed like hours. Sweat dripped from Eli's brow, but he didn't stop. His mind focused on the task, blocking out the chaos around him. The Andari agents were close, but Eli remained calm, adapting to every obstacle, with quick thinking and determination. Finally, he secured the last connection. The array hummed to life, signals stabilizing across the docking bay. Council delegates, who had been preparing for evacuation, relaxed as communication lines returned to normal. Eli leaned back, exhausted but triumphant. Lyra stepped forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You did it, Eli. You saved the talks. Without you, the situation could have escalated beyond control." Eli shook his head, still catching his breath. "I just did what had to be done. It's nothing special." Lyra smiled. "It's more than nothing. It's exactly what humans bring to the galaxy. Resourcefulness, courage, and an ability to act when others hesitate. Today, you proved that in a very real way." Just then, the Andari agents noticed their plan had failed. Frustration spread across their faces, and they retreated to regroup. Their threat temporarily neutralized. Security forces moved in, securing the area. But the impact of Eli's quick thinking was clear. Without weapons, without brute force, a single human had prevented a major disaster. Eli felt a strange sense of pride. He had never considered himself a hero, but today, his skills and instincts had mattered in a way he had never imagined. More importantly, he realized that humanity's strength was not just in technology or power, but in the combination of intelligence, empathy, and adaptability. Lyra led him back to the cantina, where the council delegates were gathering once more. There was a renewed energy in the room, a sense that peace was still possible. Delegates nodded to Eli with cautious respect, recognizing the human contribution that had made the difference. "You see," Lyra said softly as they sat down, "humans are more than what they appear to be. You take ordinary knowledge and turn it into extraordinary outcomes. That's rare." Eli smiled faintly. "I just reacted. I did what I thought was right." "And that is exactly why it works," Lyra said. "Humans act from instinct, creativity, and morality. Others act from rules or fear. That difference, it can change the course of events." They spent the rest of the afternoon discussing strategy, improvements, and preventative measures. Eli offered suggestions for strengthening the array, creating redundancies, and improving communication protocols. Lyra listened intently, asking questions and refining ideas. Together, they worked as a team, blending human improvisation with the council's structured knowledge. By evening, the immediate threat had passed. Eli felt drained but satisfied. He had faced danger in an unfamiliar setting, and yet, he had succeeded. More importantly, he had realized the value of human ingenuity not just in fixing machines, but in influencing outcomes in ways that were deeply meaningful. As they walked through the quiet corridors toward the observation deck, Eli glanced out at the docking bays. Ships floated in low gravity, their thrusters casting gentle glows across the station. The galaxy felt vast and unpredictable, yet in that moment, he understood that even one person could make a difference. Lyra turned to him, her expression soft. Today was important, Eli. Not just for the council, but for me. I've spent years observing others, studying species, and predicting behavior. But moments like this, they remind me why I continue my work. Humans, you are proof that hope, courage, and intelligence can coexist, even in the most dangerous situations. Eli felt a warmth in his chest. I didn't expect to feel this way. I thought today would just be ordinary. But it wasn't. And I guess I'm glad it wasn't. Lyra smiled. Ordinary is overrated. Extraordinary moments often come from ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Remember that. They stood together for a few moments, watching the stars beyond the station's windows. The galaxy was enormous, full of unknown dangers and opportunities. Yet, for Eli, it no longer felt intimidating. Instead, it felt like a place where humans could matter, where their qualities could ripple outward, influencing events in ways no one anticipated. As he prepared to leave for the night, Eli reflected on the day's events. He realized that sitting at the wrong table had led to a chain of moments he never could have imagined. Meeting Lyra, forming a connection, and ultimately proving that humans curious, resourceful, and brave could face challenges that others might avoid. And as he drifted to sleep aboard his small ship, he held on to a quiet belief. The galaxy was vast, complex, and sometimes dangerous. But humans, with their ingenuity and heart, could shine in ways no one else could. For the first time, Eli truly understood the power of being human in a galaxy that underestimated his species, and he knew this was only the beginning. The following morning, the spaceport hummed with a calmer, steadier energy. The immediate danger from the Andari faction had passed, but the memory of the sabotage attempt still lingered in the minds of council delegates and security personnel alike. Eli walked through the station corridors with a sense of quiet purpose. For the first time, he felt the weight of his own presence, not as just another engineer, but as someone who had genuinely made a difference. Lyra awaited him at the cantina, her expression bright with anticipation. "Good morning, Eli," she said warmly. "I trust you slept well?" "Better than I expected," he replied, smiling. "Though I keep replaying yesterday in my mind. I can't believe how close it all was." Lyra shook her head gently. "Close or not, you handled it perfectly. That array is stable because of you. And now, the Council is beginning to notice the value of human ingenuity." Eli's eyes widened slightly. "Notice? You mean they're actually paying attention to me?" "More than just you," Lyra explained. "They're noticing what humans in general bring to the table. Resourcefulness, adaptability, the ability to see solutions that others overlook. It's unusual for a species that hasn't held much power in this part of the galaxy, and your actions demonstrated it in real time." Eli felt a flush of pride. He had never considered himself remarkable. Yet here he was, recognized by beings from across star systems. Still, he remained humble. "I just did what I thought was right. And that is exactly why it matters," Lyra said. "You acted without hesitation, guided by your instinct and skill. That combination, it can tip the scales in critical situations." As they entered the council chamber, Eli noticed the delegates watching him. Some nodded with cautious respect. Others whispered quietly among themselves. He realized that his presence alone carried meaning now. Humans, often underestimated in galactic politics, were suddenly being seen as valuable contributors. The session began. Lyra introduced Eli to the council, explaining his role in preventing the sabotage and his contributions to stabilizing the communication array. The delegates listened carefully, some leaning forward in genuine interest. Eli remained composed, offering clear, concise explanations and responding thoughtfully to questions. "You see," Lyra whispered, This is your moment. Show them what humans can do, not just with technology, but with insight and judgment. Eli nodded and spoke steadily. He emphasized practical solutions, innovative approaches to problem solving, and the importance of proactive thinking. His words were simple but compelling, highlighting human ingenuity as a force for positive change. The council members began to ask questions, some challenging, some curious, and Eli answered each with clarity, honesty, and a quiet confidence that came naturally to him. By the end of the session, it was clear that his presence had made a significant impression. Delegates who had once been wary of human involvement now spoke openly about including humans in future projects, recognizing their ability to adapt and think critically under pressure. Eli realized that this moment, born from what had seemed like a simple mistake of sitting at the wrong table, was changing the perception of his entire species. After the meeting, Lyra led him back to the cantina. The two of them found their usual table, the place where it all began. Eli felt a sense of relief, a chance to breathe and reflect on everything that had occurred. "You did more than save the talks," Lyra said, her tone gentle but serious. "You reminded everyone here that intelligence alone is not enough. Humans bring creativity, empathy, and a moral compass to the galaxy. That combination is rare and valuable." Eli smiled faintly. "I never imagined that sitting at the wrong table could lead to all this. It's almost surreal." Lyra laughed softly. "Life often works that way. Small moments, choices, or even mistakes can create ripples far beyond what we expect. You were ready when the moment came, and that is why it mattered." Their conversation was interrupted by a delegation of alien diplomats approaching the table. One of them, a tall being with shimmering, crystalline skin, bowed respectfully. "Engineer Eli," the diplomat said, "your actions yesterday prevented chaos and preserved peace. The Council and I personally extend our gratitude. Your species has much to offer." "Well," Eli blinked, slightly embarrassed. "Thank you. I just did what I could." The diplomat smiled. "And that is why it was effective. Humans do not hesitate when action is required. Yet you act with purpose and understanding. That balance is remarkable." As the diplomats departed, Eli and Lyra exchanged glances. "See?" she said. "Your humanity is being recognized, not just as a skill set, but as a philosophy. Humans act with heart and logic together. That is rare in the galaxy." Eli felt a warmth spreading through him. He had never thought of his species as particularly special. Yet here he was, living proof that ordinary humans could leave an extraordinary mark. The rest of the day was a mixture of meetings, discussions, and quiet reflection. Eli continued to offer suggestions for improving the Council's systems, always blending practical engineering solutions with simple human insights. Lyra listened, encouraged him, and occasionally added her perspective, refining his ideas into strategies that could benefit the entire galaxy. As evening approached, they returned to the observation deck. The station glowed softly under Titan's atmosphere, the stars beyond twinkling in distant orbits. Eli felt a sense of accomplishment he had never experienced before. "You've changed things," he said quietly, watching the ships in the docking bay. "Not just for the Council, but for humans too. People will start to see us differently." Lyra nodded. "Yes. But remember, Eli, it's not about recognition or praise. It's about impact. You've shown that humans can make a difference through intelligence, creativity, and integrity. That is what matters most." Eli thought about all the small moments that had led to this. Sitting at the wrong table, sharing a conversation with Lyra, improvising solutions to prevent disaster. Each moment had seemed ordinary at the time, yet together they had shaped something extraordinary. "Do you think we can do more?" he asked. "I mean, humans, you, me." Can we help even more in the future? Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft light of the station. Absolutely. Humans have untapped potential, and the galaxy is full of challenges that require exactly what you bring: courage, ingenuity, and empathy. You've only just begun. Anandar? Absolutely. As they stood side by side, looking out at the distant stars, Eli felt a renewed sense of purpose. He realized that being human in this vast galaxy wasn't a limitation. It was a strength. His species' ability to adapt, improvise, and act with heart could tip the balance in situations that seemed impossible. Later, back at the cantina, Eli noticed small gestures of appreciation from the council members and other delegates. A nod here. A respectful smile there. All subtle signs that humans were now being considered as essential contributors to the galaxy's future. Eli felt pride, but also humility. He knew that this was only the beginning, and that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges as well as opportunities. Lyra joined him at the table once more, her presence comforting and steady. Eli, today has been extraordinary, but it's also a reminder, she said softly. The galaxy is unpredictable. Threats will arise, decisions will need to be made quickly, and sometimes, chaos will find us. But humans, your species has something rare. You act with thought, creativity, and courage. That combination changes everything. Eli nodded, feeling the truth of her words. I guess being human is more powerful than I realized. It's not about weapons or size or influence. It's this. He gestured vaguely at the room, the station, and the galaxy beyond. The choices we make, the way we think, the way we act. Lyra smiled, her expression gentle. Exactly. And today, you've shown that clearly. The galaxy has taken notice, and the ripple of your actions will extend further than you know. As night fell over the station, Eli looked out at the stars. He thought about the moments that had led to this. The wrong table, the conversation with Lyra, the tense hours of improvisation and quick thinking. Each step had been ordinary in isolation, yet together they had formed an extraordinary path, one that highlighted humanity's potential in the galaxy. For the first time, Eli felt a deep confidence in himself and his species. Humans were not merely observers or minor participants in the vast galactic stage. They could shape events, influence outcomes, and inspire others through courage, ingenuity, and compassion. And as he prepared to rest, the thought stayed with him. One small human, acting with integrity and intelligence, could indeed change the course of history. Lyra's words echoed in his mind. Extraordinary moments often come from ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Lyra's 18. Eli smiled, closing his eyes, ready for whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous, but humans had proven that even in the face of uncertainty, they could rise to the occasion, leaving a mark that would not be forgotten. The following morning, the spaceport seemed quieter than usual. The hum of ships and chatter of merchants continued, but the tension of the previous days had vanished, replaced by an air of cautious optimism. Eli walked through the corridors with a light step. He felt a sense of accomplishment and, at the same time, an unfamiliar mixture of anticipation and melancholy. Today would mark the end of his visit to Titan for now, but the experiences and lessons he had gained would stay with him forever. He found Lyra waiting at their usual cantina table, a calm presence amid the slowly waking station. She looked up and smiled as he approached. "Good morning, Eli," she said softly. "I assume you slept well?" "Better than ever," he replied, settling into the seat opposite her. "Though, I keep thinking about everything that's happened. It feels like this week has been a lifetime in itself." Lyra nodded. "It has been extraordinary. And you've contributed more than you realize. Humans have a way of leaving impressions that last, even without trying. You've done that here. Eli glanced around the cantina. The familiar hum of conversations, the soft metallic clatter of cups and trays, and the gentle movement of drones brought a strange comfort. He realized that this place, which had once seemed overwhelming and impersonal, had become a backdrop for something remarkable. Connection, growth, and recognition. Lyra, he said after a pause, I never expected that sitting at the wrong table would lead to all this. Meeting you, helping with the council, learning. It feels like I've changed already. You have, she replied. And not just you. You've reminded everyone here, and perhaps yourself, of the value humans bring to the galaxy. Courage, creativity, empathy, and the ability to act decisively. Those qualities are rare, and they leave a mark. Eli smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. I wish I could stay longer. There's so much more to learn. So many ways I could help. Lyra reached across the table, placing a reassuring hand over his. This isn't the end, Eli. You'll go back to your ship, to your work, to your life. But the impact you've made here will ripple outward. And one day, you may return or encounter new challenges where humans can shine again. The words were comforting, yet Eli felt the inevitable pull of departure. He thought of the docking bay, the waiting ships, and the endless expanse of space. He had come to Titan as a simple engineer, seeking rest and routine. He would leave as someone who had glimpsed the potential of humanity and his own. Later that morning, the council held a small ceremony to recognize Eli's contributions. Delegates from multiple systems, some tall, some small, some with skin that shimmered like crystal, all gathered to formally acknowledge his role in preventing the sabotage and stabilizing the communication array. Eli stood quietly as Lyra spoke. This human, Eli, has demonstrated qualities that are essential not only to the Council but to the galaxy itself. Ingenuity, courage, and an unwavering moral compass. These are qualities humans possess in abundance. Today, we recognize him not just as an engineer, but as a symbol of what humanity can offer. Delegates nodded, some offering words of thanks, others a formal bow or a gesture of respect. Eli felt a mix of humility and pride. He had never sought recognition, yet the acknowledgement felt meaningful not for himself, but for the species he represented. After the ceremony, Lyra led him to the observation deck one final time. The docking bays below were alive with movement. Ships preparing for departure, crews coordinating cargo, and security ensuring smooth operations. Beyond, Titan's swirling clouds reflected the light of distant stars. You've changed the way the Council sees humans, Lyra said softly. And you've changed me. Your courage, your thinking, your heart, all of it matters. Even small actions, like sitting at the wrong table, can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Eli nodded. I understand now. Humans don't have to be the strongest or the most powerful. We just need to act with intelligence, integrity, and compassion. That's how we matter. Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the distant stars. Exactly. And that is why I will never forget this moment. Or you. For a while, they stood in silence, watching the ships and the swirling atmosphere of Titan. Eli felt a deep sense of gratitude. He had come to the spaceport expecting nothing, and yet he had gained insight, recognition, and a connection that would remain with him forever. Finally, it was time. Eli walked toward the docking bay, his small ship waiting. Tools and supplies were packed, navigation systems checked, and the engines hummed quietly, ready to take him back into the endless expanse of space. He paused before boarding, turning to look at Lyra one last time. Thank you, he said simply. For everything, for seeing me, and for reminding me why humans matter. Lyra's smile was soft, but it carried a weight of emotion. And thank you, Eli, for showing me what humans can do, not just in technology, but in heart. The galaxy is brighter because of what you've shared here. He boarded his ship and settled into the pilot's seat. The engines roared softly as the ship lifted off the docking bay, slowly rising into the vastness of space. Eli watched Titan recede below him, its orange clouds glowing faintly in the light of distant suns. As the station became smaller, more distant, he reflected on the week's events. The wrong table. A casual smile. Conversations that felt ordinary but carried extraordinary. Meaning all of these moments had culminated in a profound realization. Humans were not insignificant. Even in a galaxy that often overlooked them, humans had the power to create change, inspire hope, and influence outcomes in meaningful ways. Lyra's words echoed in his mind. Extraordinary moments often come from ordinary people, doing extraordinary things. Eli understood now that she was right. Humans did not need superpowers, advanced technology, or political clout to matter. Their strength lay in thoughtfulness, courage, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. The journey ahead was uncertain. There would be challenges, unknown dangers, and opportunities to test his skills and humanity. But Eli felt ready. For the first time, he recognized that he was not alone. Not in the galaxy, not in his species, and not in his own abilities. Hours later, Eli drifted into a quiet state, navigating through star systems. The memories of Titan, Lyra, and the Council stayed with him. A reminder of the impact one individual could have. He thought about the humans he represented, the ingenuity that had saved the peace talks, and the small moments of kindness and connection that had made everything possible. Somewhere across the galaxy, Lyra was undoubtedly continuing her work, inspired by the courage and perspective of a single human engineer. Eli felt a quiet sense of fulfillment, knowing that the lessons and bonds created on Titan would continue to ripple outward, shaping interactions and decisions far beyond his immediate reach. As the stars stretched out before him, Eli realized that his journey was far from over. Humanity's potential had been glimpsed, and he was determined to explore it further. Whether it was building, solving, or simply connecting with others, he understood that humans could leave a lasting mark on the galaxy. One thoughtful, courageous, and compassionate action at a time. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and filled with challenges. But it was also full of possibilities. And for Eli, one human among countless stars, the realization that he could truly matter, filled him with a sense of hope and determination. As Titan became a distant memory in his rearview viewport, Eli set his course for the next adventure, ready to face whatever awaited him, carrying with him the lessons, connections, and courage that had made this journey extraordinary. He leaned back, allowing himself a quiet smile. The wrong table had been the right start. And now, he was ready to make a difference wherever the galaxy might take him.